Welcome back to the Morning Blend. Milwaukee Magazine named Carrie Reichartz a rising star lawyer. She never wanted to travel the world, but after watching a few videos of Kenyan kids singing at her church, she decided to change her life and quit her job.
Carrie wrote this book, From Lawyer to Missionary, a journey to Kenya and back again. She also co-founded the organization Operation Give Hope and has dedicated her life to putting a dent in poverty. Carrie's with us now along with Mrs. Racine County, Michelle Weisheim. Michelle made Operation Give Hope the charity of her choice for her year of service. Welcome to the Morning Blend, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a wonderful opportunity.
It's a neat partnership that the two of you have, you raising awareness for the foundation and you starting and doing the foundation. Talk a little bit about why Kenya in the first place and how that came to be.
Absolutely. I go to Fox River Christian Church out in Waukesha, and every December they do what they call My Gift for Jesus. And so it's Jesus' birthday on Christmas, and so that month they donate they do a little program that they donate the money to the kids in Kenya and their their missions there. And so saw these videos, was crying and crying and crying, the same video every week, 5 weeks, crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. I'm like, okay, well, look into going to Kenya. And so went to the meeting and then ended up going, and a lot more time since then at this point.
And what was it like? I mean, you go there for the first time, and what happens? Because I mean, if people look at just the front page of your book, it's like that happens.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That happens, and then you're hooked.
Yeah. That happens, and I think for me also, it was like just seeing that dire poverty, knowing how I live and how comfortable I am, and though I complain, and I my days have, are not the perfect days either, but it's like then going there, and they live in a mud hut, they walk 3 miles for dirty water, they don't have the food that they need, they go days without eating, but at the same time then seeing hope. We have a missionary there in Kenya that's been there 35 some years, and he's able to feed these kids 2 times a day for $5 a month. And so that's not very much. And so to be able to come back and share that and say hey, we can do this. We can feed these kids. We can educate them for $25 a month and feed them. And so we have that opportunity, and to be able to bring that back to help others to do the same. And we also do other things as well, collect school supplies and shoe drives and our run walk. And we do a lot of different things so people can get involved and be connected. So.
You've been there, 14 times now?
Yes.
And one of the areas that is of interest to you as well is the young girls and pregnancy.
Yes.
What happens in Kenya when a young girl becomes pregnant?
What happens in Kenya is they get kicked out of their home and they get kicked out of their school immediately.
And what age are these girls oftentimes?
They can be 8, 9, 10 years old. They can be, in their teens. They can even be 20s, in their 20s and in college. And they will be kicked out of school immediately and kicked out of their homes, and they'll have to live on the streets.
No, an 8 or 10-year-old is different from someone in their 20s, perhaps, who's having, what we refer to as consensual sex.
Sure.
How does an 8 or 10-year-old get pregnant?
Yeah, that's the reality of life in Kenya. It's the reality of life here as well. But there's rape, there's incest, there's early marriage. It's illegal, but it happens. So these things.
And then they get kicked out of school. Yeah. They've been raped, or the victim of incest, or married too early, probably by somebody else's. Decision, and then they face all the consequences for it.
Yes, they do.
So that's part of why that's a big part of your mission.
It is, and through my trips there, my numerous trips, I have met with lawyers and government officials and pastors and a lot of social workers and various people, and in all my conversations throughout all of them, when I look back to write the book, it was, we need a pregnancy crisis center. We need somewhere for these girls to go. There's nowhere. They're on the street. They go to sex trafficking. They go to prostitution. They go
have abortions.
They tried to drink bleach to have abortions and various other things, leaving their babies on the side of the road. They're just desperate measures because they have nowhere else to go. And so we're working on raising funds to start a pregnancy crisis maternity home to house 14 girls, 2 stories. We have half of our money so far, $20,000. We're raising it by selling bags and selling the books. All the proceeds of the books go to that as well, and partially the run walk proceeds also go to that as well. So.
You got a lot to say.
I know,
don't
right?
You? Yeah.
There's so much to get out. And what I think is interesting is that you were a lawyer, and the book is From Lawyer to Missionary. Why, as a lawyer, do you give up doing law? Instead of, someone would say, why don't you create laws or create change through government there instead of becoming a missionary? What's the purpose of switching that career path and kind of becoming that, what some would say a bleeding heart, doing missionary work instead?
And I would say I do a dual role. In Kenya, I actually do meet with a lot of government officials and do my best to work. Yes. I wouldn't be able to meet with the government officials. I mean, I've met with the head of adoption. I've met with various government officials over there, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have a law degree. They're not going to take, anyone just to go into these meetings. And so I've been graced to have people there that know these people at the same time as being able to have that degree to go in. And then on this side, that's where I gave up making $175 an hour to make $175 a week in 60 hours, opening up a home daycare. And now that 7 years later, I've kind of closed that, and now we're moving on to writing, and I'm writing full-time, writing children's books and writing secondary books to this book and a couple other things as well. So
good for you. And I appreciate your work, because I always think, because there are people like you who are willing to make it your life's work, there are some people who sit here in comfort and don't have to do that work, but it should be incumbent upon us to help and to help you do the work that you do. And why is this something that's close to your heart, and why did you decide to pick this organization as your platform?
I actually got to know Carrie through a very good friend of mine, and Carrie was doing her school drive that she talked about, and I took the idea home to my husband and our 3 girls, and they ran with it. They ran downstairs and they made individual little bags for Carrie to bring back to Kenya, and Carrie was very gracious to show us pictures of what it was like there, and that hit my kids, and it hit us, realizing that a broken crayon that we just throw away in the garbage makes a huge difference to somebody else. And now we actually have a box in our basement, and instead of throwing things away, my daughters remind me those don't go to our Kenyan kids. So just being able to touch a life somewhere else really made me decide to go with Carrie and Operation Give Hope.
What's coming up that people can get involved in? There's the run walk, and how can people get involved? What can they do to help? Because the proceeds here go towards that place, that center in Kenya for the young girls.
yes, it goes to the maternity home, and it also goes to a orphanage there that we support that does a lot of adoption as well. And Michelle will give you the details on that.
Our run walk is October 10th at South Shore Pavilion in Milwaukee. Register now, because it's $25, so that way you can get a good deal. The day of the run, it's actually going to be $40. So get your bang for your buck. Register now, register soon. You can go ahead and check our website at kenyagivehope.com. But we like to think of it as more than just a run walk. It's a little festival. We're going to have crafts. We're going to have things for the kids to do so kids can be involved. And my favorite part is we're actually going to have traditional Kenyan food. So most of us can't get to Kenya.
Oh, that's good.
So let's go down there and let's eat it together. So
that is fun. Okay, so let's run through some of these things, because proceeds from your book also help support this incredible mission. So first of all, the Run Walk for orphans is happening on Saturday, October 10th, as you mentioned, 8:30 a.m. at South Shore Park Pavilion. But register now to take advantage of that incredible discount. Go to kenyagivehope.com. Now, you also have some upcoming library events where people are able to purchase the book at a discount of $5 off each book if you pick it up at one of the library events, plus no shipping cost. And then I know the proceeds again benefit this mission. So these are free Kenya Cultural Explosion nights, and they're happening, the first one tonight at 6:30 p.m. at the Franklin Library. Then
Tonight is
Wauwatosa. I'm sorry, Wauwatosa Library. Then the next one that we wanted to talk about is Franklin. Thank you. And then Muskego is the one on October 7th at 6:30. And that's the information that you see there on your screen. And lastly, we wanted to again give your website, which is kenyagivehope.com. You can find this wonderful book and support your mission.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. And where can people find the bags?
The bags will actually be at the Run Walk. They'll be at the library events as well for sale. We do also have them at operationgivehope.etsy.com, but they're available at all the events.
Thanks so
Wonderful.
much.
Thank you, ladies.